planes. I shared it with the church a few years ago. Many of you remember in 17, I got West Nile virus, then was recovering from that. Got something called a Guillain-Barré, is the best I can say it. Then recovering from that, blood clot hit the lung. It was a 3-month journey in hospitals and rehab, and 3 months of outpatient rehab. But the point in the story where the Guillain-Barré came on, and the West Nile had already hit us hard, was life or death for a few days, but we were recovering. And Guillain-Barré is where your own immune system it attacks your own body. And I became paralyzed over 5 days. I could only slide my hands and my feet. We got a diagnosis on Sunday afternoon, and we were still having Sunday night service at the time, and Jamie was still with us, and she said, Greg, it's been a long weekend. Now that we got a diagnosis and a game plan, I need to go to church tonight. She said, but I called Davin Ainsworth. I don't know if Davin's in here tonight. She said, but I called Davin, and Davin's going to come sit with you tonight. So Davin comes and sits beside the bed. POA's having Sunday night church on the little hospital tray, little table that you eat off of. We had a laptop set up, and we were watching church from Rapides to here. And it was one of those Sunday nights. We had a bunch of them there for a stretch. We're on the second song. Y'all all came up front, and nobody got to preach. Am I telling the truth? We had some good ones. And I told Davin, I said, man, I don't think there's going to be preaching. Just turn it down, but let's leave it on in case somebody ends up preaching. Somewhere in the next few minutes, Brother Anthony Mangan got the microphone, and I still remember he was standing somewhere about right here, over there, but he was about right here, and he said, Church, it's not looking good for Greg Allbritton. They received another diagnosis today, and we need to pray for him. If I remember right, he had people turn and face the camera. But what happened in that room was Davin, I could slide my hands a little bit, and I don't remember how it happened, but Davin reached his hand through those rails, and as y'all were praying, he took hold of my hand, and he was praying. And the Holy Ghost, when I'm telling you, God just came in that room. God came in that room. We prayed so long, he asked me later, he said, you don't remember those nurses coming in? And we kind of stopped for a minute. I said, I don't remember anything, man. It was just Jesus. And the next thing I know, here's Brother Anthony walking in. We've been praying for 30, 40 minutes. Church is over. He got somebody to bring him over there. God just ministered, and that night and the next 2 days was a major turning point. Months later, I've never had God audibly speak to me, but months later, I was starting to preach again, and Brother Davin was going to drive me to Bastrop to speak. And he was on the way to my house, and the Lord just impressed me. He said that night in the hospital, he said when the Holy Ghost fell so strong, and Davin reached his hand through that rail and took your hand, the Lord just asked me, this is one of the clearest. He's like, when Davin took your hand and began to pray, what was that? What happened? Well, man, I've never had the Lord ask. I'm like, I didn't want to give a wrong answer. I'm like, well, he just took my hand and prayed. He asked me again. I could tell you, if I was back in that home, I could tell you where I was when Davin took your hand and began to pray. What happened? I said, well, Lord, what are you trying to say? He said, here's what happened. He said, it was the love of your Father through the hand of your brother. The love of your Father, but it got to you through the hand of your brother.